Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our third, I believe, webinar called in our Agent Insight series. Today we have Adam Catron with us, and he has some really great insight. He and I had an awesome prep call the other day, so I'm excited to hear what he has to share with you all. Hopefully you can see the three of us, Christy, Victoria, and Adam, and I'm going to let him give his own introduction here in just a second. But before we do that, couple quick housekeeping items. Everybody on the call is muted. So if you'll do me a favor, locate your question panel in the GoToWebinar little section and make sure you know where to find that so you can type in questions as you have them. The more questions you guys ask, the better. So let those, I'll let you guys kind of start letting those juices flow and type those in the chat pane. Victoria and I will monitor those and kind of throw them at Adam throughout the session. We'll probably go a full hour today, and the theme of this call is all about adaptation. So before we get right into it, Adam, I'm going to have you just give like a quick background, how long you've been in real estate, maybe what you did before, and what office you're in. Just give yourself a quick intro.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name's Adam Catron. I am in the Crosspoint office. It's taken a little bit to get used to. I was in the Castleton office for 9 years. So I got into real estate a little over 9 years ago and joined FC Tucker, and I've been there ever since. Before I got into real estate, I was in construction. I was in the construction business for about 13 years. I've built houses from the ground up. I've done every bit of remodeling you can think of. And then was also in the music business for about 13 years. I had a band. We were on TV and radio, had the record deal, living in a van, not down by the river, but traveling all over the place kind of thing. So actually my very first year that I got into real estate, I was still kind of doing the band thing. And I think we were just about ready to go do the ESPN gig. And so when the Super Bowl came to Indianapolis, we got to be ESPN's house band, if you will. So that was kind of the transition into real estate. It was kind of a weird one. So yeah, that's a little bit of my background, but been with Tucker for 9 years and I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Awesome. Very cool. That actually kind of brings me to one of my first questions. What brought you to Tucker and what keeps you here?
So, I learned somewhere where you got to have like your elevator pitch, like when somebody asks you, what do you do? And you got to be able to give it to them in a quick little thing. So my quick little thing is that I worked for a real estate agent when I was doing construction, and I was doing all of his inspection work. And he'd show up wearing a nice three-piece suit, driving an awesome Mercedes. And I'd always look at him like, man, that looks like a lot more fun than what I'm doing. I'm not that dumb. I guess I can go pass it to class. Yeah. So that agent, it was a Tucker agent. It's his name's Brad Donaldson. I've been with Tucker for a long time, and so he kind of inspired me to get into it. He also had another friend. Brad's also a musician, and so the idea of being a musician and real estate agent, like I kind of had that role model. And he had another friend who was a musician and also did real estate. So I said, I don't know, maybe they go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what got me to jump into real estate, and why I stay. It's you guys. Like, we've got the best freaking company in the world, I think. The staff's amazing. Our managers are amazing. Just all the resources that we get our hands on. And literally, like, you two freaking rock. Victoria she was an admin in my office for a long time and helped me with a bunch of stuff. And Christy, like, just watching you kind of take this whole thing to the next level has been really, really cool. So no, I'm excited to be a part of Tucker.
Awesome. Love that answer. And thanks for the shout out. The people are great. I think that's the best thing about Tucker too. I
Yeah.
completely agree. Cool. Yeah. And Victoria is a rock star. We actually had our first question come in on the chat pane, and it's pretty hilarious. Someone's asking, is Adam available? He's cute. But it was Jim Williamson, so I think he's just trying
No, Jim, I think I can make some arrangements.
I love it. I love it. Well, cool. Let's kind of shift gears right into the meat of everything, and get to the heart of it. So we talked a lot a week or so ago, Adam, when we were kind of prepping for this about what the COVID-19 has done to impact your business. How have things changed? What's been different in kind of the recent, whatever, 6 to 8 weeks for you?
Well, I was an office guy. Like I love being in the office. I love the energy. I love seeing, I'm very competitive, so I'd always have one or two people that I was kind of chasing on the board. So not being in the office is, it's a mental thing for me. So that's probably been like my biggest challenge and kind of adapting towards just that work style. Obviously, the way that we conduct ourselves and out in public has totally changed. Wearing a mask and we're having to wear gloves and all that kind of stuff. It's, you just got to do it. You just got to put it on and go. But I think it's just how you attract business. It's funny. So you guys know my twin brother Seth just joined my team, and leading up to him going through Leap and getting his license and everything, we talked a lot about how I go about attracting business. And I think that's the name of the game, is you got to attract the business. And there's certain things that you can do to attract that business. And so for me, it's always been out being social. Well, I can't go out and be social anymore. So that for me was a huge kind of shift, that I had to just kind of figure out what the next step was. So yeah, the day-to-day has changed. My work environment's changed. I've got an 11-month-old son, and he's getting his teeth. So
Great
he's
timing.
very loud. Yeah. And my house is not that big, so it seems to be getting smaller and smaller every day too.
We need to start talking to a realtor about that.
I think like what we were talking about, it's how do you keep doing what you're doing with the new times and being able to adapt and change. I think for the younger generations, it's just a little bit easier. For some reason, it's like it's a skill that the younger generation has, is to be able to change all the time. I think with a lot of employers and a lot of different businesses and companies, they got to change their password like every 30 days. Like I hear agents and even myself are like, man, if I got to remember one more password, and it's tough. And so I think the younger generation, they're just used to changing and adapting, with processes and systems. I think the basics are still the same, but yeah, I had my freak out moment like everybody else, but I wasn't freaking out that I was going to be out of a job or lose business. I was freaking out because now I got to go figure something out again. I think you start to get into a groove in life, and then all of a sudden something throws you off, and it's, nobody really likes change. I think human beings don't like to change all the time. They like getting into a groove. So the biggest thing for me is, now that I've got a team too, to kind of figure it out for them and for me. So that was the biggest thing, I think, just trying to figure it out, and I think after I put some thought into it, what it is, there's some new changes on how you go about attracting business, but I think there's some basics that will always be there. Talking to sellers and buyers is always going to be the same. Getting somebody from one house to the next house, all those situations are all going to kind of be the same. We've got first right contingencies, and we've got a bunch of different ways to get somebody from one house to the next, and I think that'll always stay the same. But I think it's the biggest change that we're figuring out, we're gonna have to continue to figure out, is how to keep attracting clients to come to us, to use us. And then it's somewhat of our job to explain to them, hey, we're still in business. We are changing, we are adapting. It's still the same for the most part. I've had a call every other day since this has started where people are calling me going, man, like, are you like broke? Like, are you like shut down? Like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I'm just as busy as I was before.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
I actually have a follow-up question to that. I completely agree, but tell everyone on the call the story that you shared about what Seth did, because he went through, because there are some newbies on this call today. He went through Leap when we were preaching, open houses, networking, getting out there, taking people to coffee and lunches and just communicating. Well, that's all shut down now. But you had shared with me a really cool story about something that he did, I think at your suggestion, that had helped him sort of keep getting in front of people and reminding them that he's in the business now. Share that story for us really quick.
Yeah, so going back to, how I've kind of built my business and being out and being social and teaching Seth that, I think, at one point we kind of talked a little bit about, I did a presentation once about how to pick up business at a bar, which I still think would be a cool thing to do, even though you can't go to a bar. I thought, like, man, if I wrote a book like 6 months ago about how to do that, now it's all changed, right? But it hasn't. There's still, this is a new thing that we're all trying to navigate through. The human, interaction, we need it, we crave it. We have to be talking to people, seeing people. So I've been extremely social during this whole thing, virtually, and using the Zoom and the Google Hangouts and all this stuff. And so, Seth calls me one day and he's kind of having one of those days where he's like, I just don't know what to do. I mean, like, everything they taught us in Leap, as I'm thinking about it, it doesn't seem like you could even do it, or it's not possible. And I said the same thing that I kind of just said. It's the basics are always going to be there. You always got to know how to talk to people in general. You got to know how to talk to people and put a smile on somebody's face, give them a compliment, kind of thing. You got to know how to do that. But there's a way to do it virtually. And so I said, why don't you go set up like a hangout with some people? And he's like, I don't know how to do that. And so I think Seth found this app called House Party, where you can play actual interactive games with your friends virtually. And so Seth got a hold of me and said, hey, we're going to hook up with some old high school friends. We haven't talked to them for years. You want to hop on? And I actually had another Zoom cocktail hangout with some past clients that have been sending me referrals. And so I said, I could probably push this around, but why don't you go talk with them? Why don't you just kind of make that your little scene? And I don't want to step on your toes. You might be able to get business out of it. And he's like, I don't know. Well, Seth gets on. They had a great time, played some games, had some drinks. I think at one point, two of the girlfriends that we were really close to had to go take care of their kids or something. And so Seth is like sitting there virtually with the two husbands that he's never met. And Seth's hitting it off with them, and they're chatting, they're having a good time. And one of the people there started talking to him about real estate. And I don't know if it was by the end of it that he had a listing appointment booked, but the next day, not only did he have one listing appointment, but he had two listing appointments from the people that he was hanging out with. One of them, they got off the hangout and they're like, I think we should have Seth come take a look at our house. He's cool. He obviously knows what he's doing. And then I think it was one of their friends said, hey, Seth's coming over to take a look at our house. And I think they were like, well, I want Seth to come look at my house. And so we got two appointments out of that.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And so, that's kind of the name of the game too, right? It's just setting appointments. I've always kind of hated the saying and the term, like, it's a numbers game, with sales, but to a degree, it is kind of a numbers game, so you just got to get out and set appointments. So yeah, that was super cool that he was able to go out and just basically do what I've been teaching him to do socially, virtually.
I love that story. It's so good. And I love that he he was a little hesitant, but then he did it. And to me, it's always just been about connecting with people. And when you do the things like make the phone calls or set up the coffees or lunches, like, the business does follow. It's just amazing that you're sitting at home and wallowing. People forget you're in real estate, or they call someone else or what have you. But that's such a cool story. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Adam, you mentioned sort of that whole like picking up business in a bar thing, and you talked about that you had a music career for like 13 years. How did you sort of transform kind of what you did before in music into your real estate career? Especially for maybe some of the newbies out there who are like, how do I make this sphere that I have now relatable to my real estate career? How'd you do that?
It was an easy transition. Like, I just kept going to the same bar that I used to play at all the time. I just kept going to the bars, kind of thing. Actually, it translated really easy because, at least for me, my role with the band, I was the drummer, but I was also the booking agent, the manager, I dealt with all the contracts, I dealt with all the scheduling, I dealt with everything. So when it comes to like advertising, listings and things like that, I'm basically doing the exact same thing that I was doing for the band on Facebook for my listings. You know, and I kind of actually have this weird mindset of, I kind of think of myself as a record label, not a real estate agent, and that, you know, all my talent, all my bands are my listings. And I could talk to you forever about that, but that kind of helps me. I think it's not that they work for me kind of thing, but it's, I got to treat them like rock stars, and I got to treat them like I would be advertising, you know, a huge show kind of thing. You know, that was weird. When I first got into real estate, I said, okay, I've got my photos ready to go for my listing. Like, how can I start advertising this? And they said, well, you can't put your photos in or do any advertising till the listing goes live. And me as a musician that's, you know, been doing concerts and promotions for years, I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, I can't promote something that I'm getting ready to sell. Like in sales in general, it's like there's a huge amount of promotion that happens before it goes on sale. So that was kind of a weird thing for me to get used to. But as far as like advertising and that sort of sense with listings, that's kind of the same thing I was doing for concerts. Same thing for like booking. It was that they what do they call it? Call reluctance, you know, the fear of the phone. Like I totally had that when I was really young, trying to book bands and book myself. And I mean, I started playing in bars when I was 14. And so as a 14 and 15-year-old, to call a bar or walk into a bar to try to book yourself, like I was super scared, you know. So I kind of got a lot of that fear out. And when I got into real estate, I'm like, oh, I just got to call the seller. Okay, I'll just give him a call and just chat to him, talk to him, you know. And I've always just kind of treated people just like I would treat somebody meeting them at a bar. You know, it's, you don't jump on them right away when somebody sits down next to you at a bar. You're like, as soon as they sit down, you're not going to go, hi, my name's Adam Catron. I'm a real estate agent with FC Tucker. What do you do? How many kids you got? You live around here? You know, there's like a kind of a casual way to go about doing it. That I think that's basically how I kind of work the music scene. And so, yeah, it translated pretty easy for me.
And I so love what you said. I think for folks that maybe your previous career wasn't being a musician or working at bars, what you said is you just kept showing up to the places where people, it sounds like, already kind of knew you and liked you and trusted you. And so whatever that is, you know, things will start to open up again here shortly, but I think that's a great message for, especially for a newer agent, like just keep in touch or keep going to the places that you already do, because those people already know you. And now maybe you're in a different role, but making that transition shouldn't be too terribly difficult. It's just, hey, here's my new role, but hey, you still like me, and I would love to help you in any way that I can. So I think that's a really valuable piece of advice to share, and for our newer or even existing agents to kind of take away. Love that.
Yeah, I think I did struggle, you know, thinking about that at the beginning of how do I go from one business to the next. And over the years, I've thought about, you know, what's going on in people's heads when they're coming from like maybe a car sales gig to real estate, or, you know, being a teacher at a school to real estate. And I think that, you know, the fear to call people and be like, hey, just wanted to let you know I've had a really cool, exciting change in my life. I'm now a real estate agent, and I wanted to just let you know that I'm here for you, kind of thing. It feels awkward for some reason. So I guess, you know, some advice I could give to people out there is don't make the call like that. Make the call as in like, hey, that's your friend or it's somebody that you know, and you just want to check in with them and see how they're doing, because this is really all about creating relationships. You know, I think this is, for me, it's not a sales business, it's a service business. And those aren't prospects, those are relationships. And, you know, just because they can't buy today doesn't mean that they're not going to buy, you know, in a couple of years. Doesn't mean that maybe they've got 10 people that they know that are ready to buy, you know. So I never write anybody off, because it's not about the business, it's about the relationship, and relationships always lead to business if you do it right.
Right. And I've heard you say a couple times, you have a really brilliant way. It's a basic skill, but I think you do a really nice job of it. Like when you are having conversations with somebody, you know, you say it so nicely, but inevitably, if you ask the right questions in a way that's comfortable and relational and just easy, they inevitably do say, okay, Adam, how are you? What's new in your life? So I think, that's a key, kind of an art almost in a way of, you don't have to just word vomit, oh, I'm in real estate now and blah, 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 but have something to say when they do ask you that question that is valuable and meaningful and would resonate with them and help them remember to keep you in mind in the future.
Yeah, I definitely think it's an art form. I think us as real estate agents, like our number one tool or weapon is our words. Sometimes I tell agents our job's really pretty easy. Like, you don't have to know any of this technology, but you just got to know how to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like, if you know all the technology in the world and you know the market like the back of your hand, you know all the data and you know all this, you know everything about everything, but you don't know how to talk to people, I think you'll struggle with this business. But if you know how to talk to people, I think you can throw a lot of that stuff out and be pretty dang successful. Just being able to talk to people. And like you said, it's like, it's an art. You don't want to just word vomit all over people.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of the art of it is some of the words that you use, but I think it's how you use those words. And as long as it's coming across in a way that you're trying to be genuinely intrigued with those people, they kind of start falling in love with you. Like, everybody likes people who like them. Like, I'm not going to say who this person is. Nobody knows who they are. It's family, but there's somebody in my family that some people don't like. Not that he's like a jerk or anything. He just kind of sticks to himself. And so one day, his wife says, Adam, he just loves you for some reason. I don't know why. And I kind of smile and I go, do you want to know why? Really? She's like, yes. Like, why? Why? Do you have like a secret or something? And I say, because I ask him questions all the time about what he's got going on. Like, I didn't realize that he was so into golf until I started asking questions. And now I ask him golf questions and like, he just lights up. He loves talking about that. And for some reason, because I show that I'm interested in him, he loves that. So people like people who are interested in them and like them. And so all you got to do is just ask the right questions, show some interest, and people are like, man, I like that guy.
I love that. I could not agree more.
Nice. You talked a little bit about prospecting, just creating relationships with people. Adam, are there any specific ways that you've prospected in the past that's been successful? And then sort of on the flip side, have you changed any of your prospecting ways, especially during like a more difficult time like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. For me, I think it's all about prospecting and marketing, right? Those are like the two things. Marketing has always kind of stayed the same. I've always kind of used Facebook for that, for the marketing and staying top of mind. When I first got into real estate, I tried everything, literally, and kind of for two reasons. One, I didn't really know what worked, and so I wanted to try everything until I figured out what worked. Once I kind of started figuring out what worked, I had this weird drive to try to figure everything out because I wanted to be the guy that knew how to do it all. I wanted to know how to call expireds and for sale by owners. I wanted to know how to do door knocking. I wanted to know how to do open houses, and I did all that. The door knocking is like one of the craziest things where, if you do it in the wrong neighborhood, man, look out. You better have a fast car. So what kind of worked for me at the beginning was expireds, which was, almost 9-10 years ago. I saw a movie the other day. The movie, I can't remember what it was. It was only 10 years old, and the guy had a corded home phone like on the wall. And I'm like, what year was this movie? It was like 2009, 2010. I'm like, that just doesn't seem right. But yeah, 10 years ago, there were still home phones, man. You could still look up numbers on yellowpages.com. You can still get people on the phone. That whole business has changed.
Mm-hmm.
What really worked for me, and it still works, was going out to the bars and just being social. Now, I say going out to the bars all the time because was my scene, and that's where I felt comfortable. But church could be your scene, anywhere that is a social kind of environment. I've joined a couple different organizations that they meet once a month. And I've gotten a good amount of business out of that. So the thing that's always worked the best for me is just being out in front of people, talking to people. And I rarely talk about real estate. I rarely bring up real estate. I'll say that. They always seem to bring it up. We always seem to talk about it, and I seem to get business out of it. So being out and being social has always been my biggest thing. I'm starting to get back into doing some for sale by owners and expired calls. I think that it's a skill that I kind of honed because for some reason in the back of my mind, I thought I'm going to need to have this phone skill again of getting people on the phone, and it's kind of starting to come back. And I think that the for sale by owner and the expired market's going to start to come back. I mean, I stopped calling for sale by owners when I got like my 50th for sale by owner on the phone in a row. That was like, well, we just sold that today. We just listed it and sold it, and we're good to go. Like everybody's been selling. So I've kind of backed off of that, but I think I'm starting to get back on it again because I know that there's going to be another wave of that. I'm pretty sure.
Right.
But for me right now, I'm doing a lot of like social Zoom sort of hangouts. It's a different kind of social thing because I'm not meeting new people. So the thing that Seth and I have been talking a lot about is, yeah, there's work in your sphere and there's work in your past clients, but then how do you get new people into your sphere? And I think that, especially for the way that me and everybody on my team kind of works the same, we're all very social. So I think for everybody on my team, that is going to be the biggest thing for us is how do we shift and start attracting new people in. So, one of the things that Seth and I are doing is we've created this kind of a podcasty kind of show called Catching Up with the Catrons, where we talk about, we've taken all the video ideas that we've all done, for years, and we're just combining it into one show, hoping that will get out there. Somebody will see it and go, oh my gosh, I know you're bored of sitting at home and you've gone through you've watched every, Tiger King episode, you watched all the stuff, check this thing out. And we're hoping that they'll start sharing that and they'll start liking our page and we'll start bringing more people into our sphere kind of that way. But my biggest focus right now is just staying top of mind with people, because I know that we're going to go back to being active again, being out, supposedly the 18th, we can get back in the office. The floodgates are going to open, and I want to be the person that they're thinking about once they open. So that's been my focus for the last 30 days is staying top of mind when it comes to social media and just the marketing side of things.
I love it. And speaking of relationships and keeping track of, your past clients, your sphere, all that good stuff, do you use a CRM? How do you stay organized in that regard? Has it changed over the years? Maybe what are you doing now and maybe how that's evolved?
So I've always said, man, give me a hammer and a nail and I'm good. All this laptop computer stuff, man, like I'm not good at that stuff. Like I get frustrated with it or whatever. So I was like the pad and paper, I kept everything on sticky notes. I slowly transitioned to a spreadsheet. And I think I pretty much used an Excel spreadsheet up until about 2 years ago. Maybe about two, whenever you guys came out with that CRM, I started using that CRM. And man, I wish I had that CRM a long time ago. There's so many really awesome tools in there, but for me to just be organized with my clients, it's so nice to get on there every day. I could see my funnel of hot prospects, long-term prospects, past clients. I can click on them, go through them, and I recently have just realized this in the last couple months that if I put in a prospecting task, like I called them or whatever, then they like shift down to the bottom of the list. And so all I really got to do is just look at the top of my list every day, knock those people out, and it'll constantly give me a new fresh list of people. I love the CRM. I think you got to have something. And if you guys don't have the CRM, if you're not using the Tucker CRM, man, use it. It is such an awesome tool.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even pay him to say that. Thanks, Adam. I love that endorsement.
Yeah, and I realized the other day too that pretty much every lead generation platform out there, including Facebook, if you know how to turn it into a lead generation tool, will auto-populate, will send all those leads straight into your CRM and categorize them. I mean, it's so slick. I love it. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Cool. I did have a couple quick questions come in over the chat pane. First, maybe just a comment. Seth said, just show up, even virtually. I love that. Donna says, Adam, thanks so much for sharing. You're great at putting a smile on our face. We're thrilled to have you on our team. Couldn't agree more. Tim agrees with you that being home is driving him crazy as well. But then I did have a question about, Amanda asked, how do you get the expired listings phone numbers if you don't have their phone number, I'm sorry. Do you mail them something? How do you go about getting in touch with them, or what's your plan for the future?
So once I start seeing a lot more expireds hitting, then I'll probably start casting my pull out that way. It's gotten tough to get expired phone numbers. And like I said, it used to be easy because everybody still had the old, landline on the wall. Two really good tools out there if you guys are looking to really make this like your thing. I think it's a great investment to do it. It's RedX and Vulcan 7. I don't know if you guys are familiar with either one of those. They both kind of function the same in the sense that they will go out there and find all the expireds for you and for sale by owners, and they will go get all their information and put it all into a nice little sheet for you so you can just go start dialing. RedX is a little bit more affordable, but it doesn't have this auto dialer feature. Vulcan 7 has this really cool auto dialer feature. So, you basically say, I want every for sale by owner or expired for the last 2 weeks. It goes through, finds them, gets their phone numbers. You just press go, whether you're in a headset or however you want to do it, and it will just start calling them. And it's really cool. It's like you can set it up to where it will auto send a voicemail. So if it gets to their voicemail, it will automatically send that voicemail, and you don't have to sit there and listen to your voicemail and waste time. You don't have to keep saying it a million times. It's just like it's kind of like slide dial, where it instantly just goes straight into their voicemail and then goes to the next guy. Both of those, you got to pay a monthly subscription for it. But that's probably the easiest, best way to go out and go after these guys and at scale. Other than that, you can still probably find some landlines out there. I love working with sweet little old ladies, and so if you can get one of them on the phone, it's probably the older generation that has the landline. Yellowpages.com is where I used to find those, but I think there's probably some other programs like Vulcan 7 and RedX, but those two right now in the real estate community have been huge for going after for sale by owners and expireds.
Awesome. And yeah, you're right. There are still landlines. In fact, Kathy, who's on our call, says, what? Everyone doesn't have a home phone? We have one. They are still out there. You're right.
Somebody's going to try to figure out how to get them back.
Oh, I know, right? Jim is dying to know, did Carol Baskin feed her husband to the tiger? What's your thought on that kind of pop culture question of the day?
Totally. Oh my God. Okay. So have you guys seen that?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So when
Carol, how can you know it's like a train wreck?
Right. Okay. So when Carol is talking to the camera and she's staring at it and she's talking about this, you're looking at her in her eyes, right? Do you trust her? No, right? So take her off of camera. Totally take her off camera. You're just listening to the audio. Do you think that you would trust her, or would it be a little bit harder to tell?
Oh, I don't know.
If you couldn't see her face and you were just listening to the tone of her voice.
You've like dissected this, haven't you, Adam?
Kind of. I'm trying to prove a point. I'm trying to prove a point. It would be harder to tell whether you trusted her or not, right?
Right.
That is the power of doing video on social media. Right? Everybody says in sales all the time that they got to like, know, and trust you, right? And so I was saying this morning and I've said it before, that I think any of us could probably get on somebody's Facebook page and within a few minutes get to know them, right? Like he loves dogs and he's a huge Colts fan. And you could go through his page a little bit more and probably like the guy a little bit, or girl, right? Depending on what they do. And there's a post of her giving, to charity or something. I like this person. but trusting them, right? That it takes a little bit more to build trust in this new virtual world that we're in. And I think the best way to do it is video. So if people aren't doing video out there, if you're a real estate agent and you're not on camera, I think you're missing an opportunity to build a lot of trust during this kind of virtual world that we're in right now.
I love that.
What kinds of videos and stuff do you do, Adam, regularly? Like besides the fact that we've been doing everything virtually, what kind of stuff do you do?
So I always do a coming soon video, and I'll post that on all my social media stuff. I always do a video walkthrough of the house once the house goes live. If I'm doing an open house, I always do like a little thing while I'm at the open house, just a little promotion, little plug sort of thing. I like to do, the stories have kind of become a big thing now with social media. So I like doing kind of like a day in the life sometimes, where it's me hopping in the car and showing a house and then going to a closing and then going to an inspection and just kind of doing the day in the life sort of video. Any home improvement thing that I've got going on, I video it. And there's been so many times where I'm like halfway through a project where I'm like, oh, why didn't I start videotaping this thing? One, I got a lot of likes on it. It was right around Christmas. On Christmas Eve, I woke up and my furnace didn't work. And so I know enough about furnaces that I could kind of get in there and figure it out. I got in, I figured out what the problem was, but I did have to use YouTube a little bit to figure out, how that part was going to come out of there and how to replace it and all that. So I did a whole video on me finding the furnace dead, what I did, all the steps to kind of get through it, to it being fixed and coming back on. People loved that video. So yeah, anything and everything. I did a video, I got a lot of likes on the other day that I think I'm going to start doing this quite a bit more. And it kind of sparked an idea from that. I don't know if I'll do it, but a thank you video at the end of your deal. And so it was me pulling up the for sale sign in the rain. And it was just me saying, hey, I just want to thank everybody for getting this deal done during this crazy time that we're going through. Title company, and I gave them a shout out. Lender gave them a shout out. You guys were so great to work with. And then thank you for the buyers and sellers for all kind of keeping their cool during this. It's a crazy time, but we're keeping the ball rolling, keeping the world turning kind of thing. And it's one of those quick little videos that, the title company got on, they liked it, they shared it, and so this just little videos like that. Every time that you think that you could post something, you could turn that into a video. And so that's kind of been my mindset recently.
I love that. And so you're looking for opportunities constantly for what you can post that you're already doing and not having to necessarily create content. You're just documenting your normal life, which people love to tune in for that. It's shocking, really, but it's true.
It is, yeah.
Joan wants to know, what equipment do you use for your videos? Do you typically use your cell phone? Do you have a selfie stick? How does that all work and come together?
Yeah, so I've got a decent amount of equipment, and I kind of keep adding on to it. I love carrying this around. They're like, oh, is that a little violin? Is that a little mandolin you got there? This is called a gimbal. So there's a bunch of different types of gimbals that are out there, but this is what I use. It's got kind of a little gyro deal on it. You plug your phone into it, and this one's, I think, battery's dying a little bit, but it keeps it all really smooth moving, sort of thing. So I plug my phone into it. I use my phone for all of my video. There's an app out there that I have been using for a long time. It's called the Quick app. It's Q-U-I-K, and it's basically kind of a GoPro product. It is so easy and so cool to edit a video through that. So I use this gimbal with my phone. When I do my listing videos, I will just shoot the clips that I want. I don't do one big thing and then go back through and edit it. I'll just get like the fireplace shot, or I'll get like the kitchen shot, and then I go through and I'll kind of map it all together in this app, and it's super easy. I'm not a tech guy at all. It's really easy to do. You can bring in your own music. It's got a lot of great music samples that you can use. So for the most part, I use that all the time. I'm now starting to invest into some lighting. I think the quality of photos and video is just, it's so important right now with social media. And there seems to be more and more technology and apps and things like that coming out that, I think before it was okay if like the video is a little shaky or a little dark. And it was just like, hey, he's doing video at least, I'm not doing it. Now it's starting to get kind of competitive, man. Like you have to have good lighting and you have to have the good sound. And I mix it up a little bit. Sometimes I'll have Seth or somebody on my team be the camera guy. That kind of makes you look like you got like this whole thing going on behind you, but then sometimes it's kind of cool to have one just very like selfie style. I think mixing it up just a little bit, different camera shots and angles kind of keeps it fresh a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
And this gimbal, if you guys are interested, is I don't know if it's backwards. I don't even know how to.
Newish. We've had some questions about what is the stuff we'll send out. We'll put together a recap email
Okay.
with Adam. But yeah, good questions. Something came in that I thought was a really great question from Jim Anthony. First off, he said he wants to thank you for always setting a great example of how agents should be in this industry and for giving back by doing things like this. So thanks for that, Adam. His question is, are you seeing any specific, it's kind of a two-part question. Are you seeing any specific trends in the industry? And then this was one of my questions too. What about building and developing your team? You waited a while to do that. What was your thought process behind it? And sort of what are you seeing and doing there?
Okay, so kind of the first part, the trends that I'm seeing, I think there's still a lot of investors out there. I think that I think our role is going to continue to change as real estate agents, and we just got to really try to stay ahead of it. I've said this before, I almost hate to say it, but I could see us becoming more, what's the right word for it? I could see us just being more in a role where we're like lawyers. We charge by the hour on the phone kind of thing. We're more or less using our knowledge and our experience to kind of guide people through doing I think we're way, way, way off from that. I think people are always going to want a real estate agent to show them the house. But I think it's our responsibility to really stay on top of what's going on with the market. I think the trend is trying to be the all knowledgeable real estate agent when it comes to data, when it comes to every single way that you can go out there and buy a house, sell a house, rent a house. I think that there's a lot of lost business from with agents where they kind of focus. It's okay to, I think, have a niche. I think that can make a fun, easy business, but I also think that to be able to adapt and to be able to stay on top of things, you got to know how to call expireds. You got to know how to do for sale by owners. You got to know how investors think. You got to be able to talk cash on cash returns with people. Airbnbs. I think that's like a scary topic for a lot of real estate agents, especially right now. Like, what if you had a client that you just helped them buy an Airbnb and now you can't rent it? So I think it's just that knowledge and really trying to stay on top of that so that we can talk to people. So I think that's kind of the biggest trend that I'm seeing. I think as far as trends with housing styles, I think that we are starting to see a huge oversaturation of condo, apartment, multi-use sort of living. I think it's great for our city. I think that lifestyle is something that people are craving, but I feel like it's starting to get oversaturated. And so I think that if you were talking to your clients, and I actually had this conversation last night, they didn't know if they should buy a condo or this single family home. The single family home was built in 1900. It was absolutely beautiful. The townhomes were just as nice. They're beautiful, but I think the single family homes are going to hold their real estate value for a long time. I think that because there's still a lot of plans in the works for more multifamily stuff coming in, I could see that getting so oversaturated where those values start to kind of tick down a little bit.
Sure.
So this is kind of the trendy stuff that I'm seeing with my team. So yeah, what was the kind of the question about my team?
Let me read it one more time. He said, my question was, you kind of waited a bit and why, but what are you sort of working to build and develop with your team dynamic?
I wanted to wait because I wanted to make sure that I was really thinking about this the right way. I wanted to make sure that I was doing it for the right reasons. You know, it's not just about making more money off people. I think that was the turn on at the beginning.
Mhm.
I got to a point where I was really, you know, when you're dealing with when you're selling 60 something houses a year by yourself, it's a lot. And so the start of the team was just more or less like the support for me. Um, but after I did that first training session, after I think I've done a couple things with Tucker and doing some office sales presentations, like I love teaching people the small amount of stuff that I know. You know, I love seeing people grow and helping them be successful, and so I got a lot of gratification out of that. And so once I really was thinking about it the right way, and I wanted to make sure that I had gone through enough crappy deals. I'm trying not to cuss. Um, I wanted to go through enough crappy deals to where I had gone through enough problems that I really felt like I could handle anything that anybody on my team had. And then there was a couple deals within the last couple years where I'm like, okay, now I've seen it all, I've done it all. Why not start the team up kind of thing? So that's probably why I hesitated. I want to make sure I was thinking about it for the right reasons, and I had some things in place and the knowledge to be able to support my team. I think my biggest fear was I'd attract, you know, a good agent on my team, and then they'd come to me with the need, and I wouldn't be able to help them. So I wanted to make sure that I had all that stuff in place before I kicked that off. What I'm working on mostly with my team is a lot of one-on-one coaching. So I know that I've attracted the type of team that I want. We're all kind of the same. We all like to work kind of the same.
Mhm.
But what I realized with real estate and sales is it's not just about you and a coach or you and a mentor working on real estate. It's usually what's going on outside of real estate, what's going on in your head and your family. All those things come into play when it comes to our ability to attract business. You know, I talk all the time about keeping your head straight, you know, and keeping the eye on the prize kind of thing. And I think that is probably that's the hardest thing, and it's the most important thing for us as agents to work on is our head, making sure that we're in a good headspace so that we can attract clients. You know, yeah, you can go pick up business at a bar, but if you're sitting there at the bar hunched over and you got 3 empty drinks sitting around and you got this sad look on your face, no one's going to come walk and sit next to you and go, man, this guy seems like a lot of fun, you know. And actually, this is kind of how I would teach this to somebody that wanted to know how to do it. Listen to the music that's going on, tap your foot, act like you're having your own little dance party in your head. Okay, people will go, man, that guy looks like he's fun, and would be very comfortable sitting down next to you, right? So you're attracting these people to come get close to you, be in your world. So with me and my team, I'm really trying to focus on that, making sure that their head is in the right space, especially going through all this. You
Sure.
know, I'm not going to have a sales meeting once a week going, all right, guys, we need to hit the phones. You know, I need to see some numbers. For me, it's, hey, let's just get through this with the best attitude that we can, so that we're setting ourselves up. We're attracting business along the way, so that when the floodgates open, it's there, it's ready to go.
Right.
So that I think that kind of goes along with one of the things that I try to focus on with the team is just creating a culture. You know, it's not just about hitting the office and hitting the phones and, you know, clocking in and clocking out. I want to kind of create a kind of a culture. So we've gone out and we've done drinks when we were able to get out. We're going to set up like a team cocktail hour through Zoom or something like that, so we can kind of just kick up our heels a little bit. But yeah, it's a little bit about my thought on the team.
No, I love that. And Jim says, awesome. Thank you. Very helpful. Sarah says, Adam is amazing, which we agree. Here's another really good question from Tim, and we'll probably take maybe one more after Tim's question. So type it in if you're thinking about it. So Tim's question is, I have a couple of young buyers and they're getting frustrated because they keep getting outbid and prices are continuing to go sky high, even during the quarantine. What are you advising your younger buyers or maybe your first time buyers right now? Would you tell them to go ahead and bid and try to get the house, or are you advising just maybe wait and pump the brakes if they can? What are your thoughts there?
No, that's probably one of the bigger challenges right now. Speed is key. It's all about how fast you can move, man. You know, you got to be able to do everything digitally in your car, have your car oiled up, ready to go. You know, there's not a lot of cops out on the roads right now, so pedal to the metal, man. What I'm really doing with almost all my buyers and sellers who are looking to make the move is I've been getting them out way ahead of the game and just getting to look and get comfortable with things. I'm setting the expectation that things are selling super quick, and I think you have to be kind of careful with this sounding like a high pressure sales tactic, you know, because I think buyers will start to go, oh, I'm sure he says this to all buyers. So you got to be kind of careful on your approach with it. But you do, I think, need to set the expectation that things are moving super, super quick. You know, I think in past, I would not try to set that expectation because I didn't want it to seem like a high pressure sales tactic. So I would just get them out and let them lose a bunch, you know, and then they'll finally start listening to you after they lose a little bit. But that can start to wear people out, especially with this market. You know, we've got this whole extra bit of stress on top of an already stressful thing. People don't function and they don't act like normal when they're under that kind of pressure. So what my goal is with my buyers is to get them really comfortable with the type of house that they want in the area that they want, so that when the time is ready for them to make an offer, they don't have to go and even think about it. And so one of the things that I've actually done a handful of times since this Corona thing has started is I'll get them out, I'll get them comfortable, and then make an offer sight unseen. Just throw an offer out the second that it hits, just make an offer on it, right? Well, everybody's like, well, yeah, that's real easy for you to say, Adam, but it's my money. And what if there's a dead body? What if it smells like cats? You know, like, why isn't that house selling? It's beautiful. It's got everything. And then you go show it and you're like, oh my God, like the amount of cats that they've had in this house, you know? So when you make an offer sight unseen, write in the further conditions that this offer, this acceptance is contingent upon the buyer's ability to physically see the home in person within 48 hours after the acceptance, and then the buyer will approve or decline the home within 1 hour after seeing it. So you're putting timelines on it so everybody knows that, hey, okay, in 48 hours he's going to get in and we'll know after this. Sellers don't pen the property. You don't put any even earnest money down. And you should try to get in before the earnest money is supposed to be delivered. You know, we typically do 2 days. So I wouldn't be putting like a 72, 3-day, 4-day on it. Try to get in there within that time frame where the earnest money is going to be showing up anyways. But put that in there. It's okay. If you've gotten out and you've shown them enough houses so that they're comfortable with the style and the location and the price point, you know, you run the taxes and tell them what their payment is going to look like, then just go ahead and make that offer, but protect them by putting that language in the further conditions. And I've done that a handful of times and I've gotten my buyers houses. And the thing is with sellers, if it's even halfway good enough, they will entertain it because this is an opportunity for them to not have a million people walking through their house that possibly have COVID. So there's that, and then there's just really just being super fast and on it. I got a house for one of my buyers the other day, last week or so. The house was listed at 1 o'clock. We got in at 3 o'clock. The offer was to the listing agent by 3:30, and by 4 o'clock they had accepted it. It was one of the fastest acceptances I'd ever had. And then they had a whole line of showings too after us, because now in showing time you can see what all is actually getting booked, what times are already booked up, because they're not allowing overlapping showings. I could tell that there was the whole day after me was booked up. Well, they accepted our offer right away and canceled all the showings to keep people from coming in. So speed is key. Setting the right expectation, getting them out early, and then talking to them about how to make an offer sight unseen so that they're protected.
Yeah. And one of the things you guys have probably both heard me say this a million times, but I'm still surprised at the number of agents that don't do this. Having a couple listings during the quarantine where they were getting multiple offers and they were moving really quickly, the amount of agents that still don't just do that simple step of picking up the phone and calling the listing agent and saying, hey, they like the house. What's the most important thing to the seller? I'm still shocked at the number of offers you see where it just lands in your inbox and you're like, oh, I didn't even know they were going to write an offer, and I had one happen Friday, and I straight up told the buyer's agent, here are the two most important things. They wrote it in the offer and we accepted it right away. And it was just like, there wasn't the back and forth. It wasn't, oh, we can't close that date, let's counter, da, 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 da. So I think trying to make things as simple as possible by doing everything that you're saying, Adam, of just not being afraid to pick up the phone and ask that simple question, then shut up, because those listing agents will tell you exactly what their clients want. And then you've got the keys of the kingdom, right?
Yeah. Well, and that actually helps you move faster. If you know what the ideal closing date is, and you know that they need a couple of days of possession because you called, well, you don't have to spend the time. You call that ahead of time, get that information, put it in the offer, have it ready to go. Go show the house. If they're ready, you sit there and do it, send it to them on your phone and move really quick. But no, you're right. Like, I called an agent, it was a Tucker agent, called her, we were going to make an offer, and I said, so what's the best closing date? What's ideal for the seller? And do they need any possession after closing? And she laughs and she goes, Adam, you're the only agent that has asked that question. So I'm going to tell you exactly what we want. And if you write it up, you'll probably get that offer accepted.
Right.
Because it wasn't what everybody thought, and it was kind of specific. And so we wrote it in that way and we got the house.
Yeah. And I love that. I love hearing that story. There's just so many amazing wins like that. So
yeah,
good, definitely good advice. All right. I don't see any other questions. Victoria, do you have anything lingering or any other burning questions for Adam as we kind of wrap up here? We're almost, that hour went fast.
It did go fast. I don't see anything else that's come in. Just kind of what do you think is going to continue to change, Adam, as we sort of wrap all this up and we go forward? And if we're looking at, being able to kind of get back in the office in a couple of weeks, and what's post-COVID, what do things look like for you? What do you think it's going to look like for the business?
Yeah, I think, I probably should have always been wearing a mask in some of these houses I show, especially to the investors, where it's like covered in mold in the basement and we're just standing there talking, like no big deal. So I think masks are going to be more common moving forward. I think there's this new skill that we're going to have to learn. It's the skill is be able to adapt and change. That in itself is a skill. The basics will always be there. It's just, how do you navigate Zoom now? How do you get on Zoom and log in? I think that, and I kind of got on this a little while ago, a couple of years ago, where I would ask either my clients or the other agent that I'm working with, do you do text messages? And I would at least try to kind of figure out how they like to communicate. And so everybody likes to communicate just a little bit different. I know that I've got a buddy who's my age, will not text me. I text him and he calls me. And I'm like, God, my baby's asleep. That's why I'm texting you, right? So it's not an age thing. Everybody just has sometimes their own way that they like to communicate. And so moving forward, I think that you're going to have the Zoom people, the Google Hangout people, the GoToMeeting people, the FaceTime people. There's going to be all these sort of certain people that it's going to be our job to be able to speak all those languages and just be able to use all those programs. So, and those programs will come and go, just like every other program. There'll be the latest, greatest thing pop up that everybody else will start using. And if you're not using it, then you're missing the boat. And so I think that that's going to be the new skill for all of us to work on. Maybe it's kind of an OCD thing. You just got to learn to let go and just do it. Don't try to figure out how it works. Just know that it does and just use it. So I think that is going to be a huge skill moving forward, is just being able to be adaptive with each person, how they like to communicate, which moving forward, I think is going to be, which platform would you like to use, sir? Are you familiar with Zoom, Google? And you just list them off.
Pick your favorite, right?
Yeah.
No, I love that. I think that's really, really solid advice. Thank you. Comments keep coming in. Charmaine says, thank you. Maureen says, very helpful. Thank you so much. Mandy says, wonderful ideas. Thank you, Adam. That's all I had. That hour went really quick. I want to thank you, Adam, for sharing your afternoon with us. Really, really good stuff. For those of you on the call, we will send out the recording later, along with some of the technologies and some of the tools that Adam uses that he referenced. I think that would be helpful for you guys. And feel free to forward this video on to any of your friends that you think might find some value from it. Diana says, Adam, you rock. Let's leave it right there. Thanks again, Adam.
Awesome. You guys rock. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Adam.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Yeah.
day.
You too.
Yeah.